Alrighty, we're back. Back in session. We are looking at 2.3 new business, and I understand there's an addition to the agenda from Councillor Larson.
Yeah, I'd just like to make an addition that Council ratify Councillor Laprise for mileage to his RC cleaning plant and back for taking us for a wonderful lunch.
So we can add that to 2.312. That's right.
Good.
And 2.311 would be the, we added also the addition of the letter that we discussed prior to lunch. Staff has had a chance to circulate it via email for everyone to look at, so we make sure we got the wording right. And with that, we'll move to 2.31, the Council Resolution Tracker on page 71 of your agenda package. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council, through the Deputy Reeve to Council. Attached on page 70, actually we have page 83 of the agenda package. You'll note the Council Resolution Tracker. Anything in green highlighted resolutions denotes a complete action. The yellow, of course, denotes an action that's still outstanding. One of the highlights that I wanted to mention, of course, is there's a resolution to hire a contractor for a hydrogen specialist, and I just want to let Council know that last week we fulfilled that. So we have Marcus Lehman from Navigatio, who is our hydrogen specialist. We did have our kickoff meeting yesterday. I was briefed on it this morning. It went rather successfully, and there's going to be construction of plans moving forward, and those will be presented to Council in terms of an action plan. So at some point in the future, but I just wanted to let Council know about that. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff for the Resolution Tracker?
Could I ask for an update on the Redland water, where that's at?
I'll turn it over to our GM of Transportation.
So currently through the Deputy Reeve, we are seeking some engineering quotes to do some preliminary work on that. So we have those quotes now. And then once we have that, we're going to do some preliminary engineering and costing so that we've got some information in hand to go and meet with the community. Then once that meeting's done with the community, we've kind of outlined what they're looking for exactly and what ratepayers are looking for the services. Then we'll take that back and start to build the actual local improvement plan. Once that plan is set up, then we'll present that plan to Council for review and modification or approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Just a question.
Go ahead, Glenn.
The ratepayers were already in one saying this is what they wanted. How come we're starting the process all over again?
Through the Deputy Reeve. So one of the requirements that we do need to do by regulation is to get the engineering review done. And then obviously we also want to get updated preliminary pricing done. We just felt like we needed that information in order to discuss that with the community. Also just to outline with the community and discuss with them all of the different facets and steps in the local improvement plan according to the MGA, just so everybody's informed and educated on what that process looks like. So that was our reasoning for going through this process and then meeting with the community again.
Thanks.
Thank you. No further questions. We're looking for a motion.
I'll move that Council accept the Council Resolution Tracker dated June 21st, 2022 as information.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We'll move on to 2.32, attendance at Drumheller and Area Foundation AGM.
Good Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration again. On page 93 of your agenda package is the RFD to ratify 1 evening per diem and mileage for attendance at the of any Wheatland County Councillor to attend the Drumheller Area Health Foundation Annual General Meeting. In the body of the report, Council may recall the Executive Director emailing an invitation to Council to attend the Drumheller Area Health Foundation AGM on June the 22nd. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, discussion? Go ahead, sorry.
Is anyone planning to go?
I'm not able to.
Myself, no.
Okay, well, I'll go then, I guess. I'm probably the closest one anyway. I do have another meeting at 7, but I should be able to make most of that.
I've just got a question. The AGM was going to go ahead with whether or not council's here or not. I believe we give them some money. We're not main funders or anything. I've got no problems with mileage because it's so far out of there, but I think this is sort of, I don't think it's a necessary thing. So, I'm good if a councillor wants to go and we pay mileage, but I don't think this should be a paid event. My opinion.
So it would be part of the stipend is what you're saying? Your base stipend? Because it's in your
Yes,
area?
exactly. I mean, if no one goes, I don't think anybody went to the last one. If they did, it would have been Ben, and he didn't charge for it, as I remember. So, it's just one of those things. We're not on the board. We have representatives from the area on the board. Just
Okay. Someone's making a motion. Further discussion?
I don't know. Isn't Rick on the board?
No, I'm not designated by council to be on the board anyway. But I would move that
Okay.
we ratify 1 evening per diem and mileage for the attendance of any Wheatland County councillor who wishes to attend the Drumheller Area Health Foundation Annual General Meeting on June 22nd, 2022.
There's a motion. Any discussion? Further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? We have an opposition. We will go by a roll call vote. Councillor Kester, are you in favor?
In favor.
Favor? Councillor Priest?
I'll be in favor.
Councillor Bigger? Councillor Eichert?
opposed.
Myself, I'm in favor. Councillor Larson?
In favor.
That is carried. Move on to 2.33, Committee of the Whole scheduling.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration again. Just coming off of last week's Committee of the Whole, Administration thought it would be an opportune time to schedule the next Committee of the Whole meeting. In the report on page 96, you'll note potential options. There's 3 listed. 2 are following Municipal Planning Commission, the September 27th recommendation as well. There's no meeting scheduled, but we'll leave that to Council's discretion. Thank you.
Sorry, are you looking for a date today, or?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Discussion. Go ahead, Rick.
I would just suggest that, just to save mileage, that we do it after the MPC.
I'd agree.
I'd agree too. That leaves us 2 of the 3 options. Either day works for me. I don't know. Councillor Kester, do you have any preference?
Tell me what the weather's going to be like.
Exactly.
I would think the 11th of October would be, I don't
October
know,
11th?
either one's probably is, yeah, doesn't really matter that much, I don't think.
Everybody else?
Set the 13th and then change it to the later if there's harvest going on.
Did you hear that, Glenn?
Oh,
Sorry, Don, you got to.
sorry, I said.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, good.
There's a lot between now and then that can happen.
Just a note to council, through resolution with the date and time, the resolution is riding, so that's set. So we'll have to revisit if we're going to push it to, let's say, the resolution reads September 13th, but then we want to move it to October the 11th, we would have to bring it back. Just an FYI, that's kind of the process that would have to occur.
When is our do we do an organization meeting every year where you look at what boards you're on again? Yeah,
That is correct.
that's October 18th?
During a council.
Yes.
In a
We-
council meeting, yes, but okay, so either way, this would be before that.
That's correct, and
Okay.
that was the
That was the
rationale.
idea behind it, okay.
So which preference do we want? You want to make a motion so we can vote on it?
I would just say if we're talking about harvest, it's hard to say which one is best. Oftentimes what we get done before Labor Day is the only thing we do till after Thanksgiving, so one can be as bad as the other, so I think let's just pick one and go with it.
Okay.
I guess I would say October 11th, just because with school going back in and harvest and all that, it's September, early September is pretty busy. If we're quibbling over what day. So
We
like
need a motion or just a date?
a motion.
Motion, thank
Okay.
you.
Does anybody
fine.
care? Okay. I'll move approval that a Wheatland County Committee of the Whole be scheduled to take place on October 11th, 2022 to commence following MPC.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We will move to 2.34, Rail Safety Week Proclamation.
Matt,
Page 87 in the package.
Matt from administration here to present the Rail Safety Week proclamation. It's attached supplemental to the report, and the purpose is listed in the report. Thank you.
Some information, is there any questions? Want to make a motion?
I'll move that Wheatland County Council approve Rail Safety Week proclamation from September 19th to the 25th, 2022.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, it's carried. We'll move on to 2.35. This is a follow-up from some discussion we had before. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council. Tracy from Administration. At the last regular meeting of Council, the following resolution was made, and Administration was directed to bring back information regarding in-camera items. So historically, in-camera was referred to as land, legal, or labor. In 1999, the MGA was repealed and replaced with councils and council committees may close all or part of their meetings to the public if the matter to be discussed is within one of the exceptions to disclosure in Division 2, Part 1 of the Freedom and Information and Protection of Privacy Act, referred to as FOIP. And on page 103 of the report to council, I've identified the items as to when a council can go in camera. You'll note that section 16, 17, and 22, you must go in camera, whereas the other sections state you may go in camera. However, all of the sections allow a council to go in camera. And I provided 2 documents, one from Municipal Affairs regarding in-camera discussions of council, and then the other one is closed meetings of council in camera, again, from the province. And as well, the actual sections from the FOIP Act, Section 16 to Section 29. So you'll notice in section 16, it says the head of a public body must refuse to disclose an application information where it would reveal trade secrets of a third party. So you'll note that we go in camera if we've put out an RFP and we get applications back for those. So we have to go in camera so that it doesn't significantly harm the competitive position or cause an undue financial loss to companies, as an example. So it's fairly clearly laid out in FOIP in quite a bit of detail as to when a council can go in camera. And also, even within the agenda, you must refer to the section of FOIP, and then with a heading of legal or whatever it is. But also, you must provide kind of a broad, high-level title as well. So you can't just say FOIP section 16, that's it. You do need to provide some information, even though it's broad. One note, one exception, section 197, is allowing MPC, subdivision, development authorities, SDAB, they can deliberate and make decisions in a closed meeting to the public. So that is an exception, is those entities. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Please feel free to ask any questions. Go ahead, Mr. Larson.
Okay, so I'm going to refer specifically to the one that says harmful to intergovernment relations or whatever it is. So if we've read a letter in public in the council, how do we base going in camera to discuss the letter, and how would that be? I don't understand how that would be harmful to government relations when we've already read it into public and then we come out of camera with a decision. So I would really like to understand how that would work.
I'm going to refer to our CAO for that.
Maybe I'll ask a follow-up through the Deputy Reeve to Councillor Larson, just for clarification. So a letter, I'm going to paint a scenario, a letter has been read or put in the agenda package, intergovernmentally in upper level government, for example. And then we discuss that letter, but then maybe we go into closed session. Like, how does that transpire? What's the trigger? Is that what you're...
That's
like,
correct.
what's the trigger?
If the letter's already been read into public, it's a matter of public record, and then we go into camera to discuss what to do about it. I don't quite understand how that works.
So I think, and please feel free, Tracy, to supplement, but I think if there's conversations that perhaps are opening up and painting a risk to the corporation in one of the ways that Tracy presented with respect to why we go into FOIP. So if it's erring on a side where we may be getting into a realm that perhaps would jeopardize the corporation or a position we may have, or something that council's working on that may be in closed session, like if it kind of crosses a threshold into other realms that we are discussing in terms of confidentiality, or maybe kind of erring on ways to damage a relationship, let's say, in that way, that's the only way I can see us going into closed session with respect to that, when conversations go past that threshold. But otherwise, a letter is part of the public realm, to your point. So the bulk of it, like the body and the context of that letter, which ultimately should be discussed at that point in time, is the context of the letter only. But theoretically, that's what should be discussed. That should be in the public realm, no doubt about it. But please feel free.
Yeah, I think I can add to that too, that I think you can start a topic in the public But then once the conversation starts going to, say, Section 17, where, say, it's personal privacy or harmful to intergovernmental or, you know, things like that, council can say, you know, I think we should go in camera for this under this FOIP section. Likewise, if you're in camera, council can also say, I see no reason to discuss this in camera. We can bring this out into the public and finish discussing this as well.
Which would be voted on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there would have to be consensus, right?
And typically to that end, through Deputy Reeve Klassen to council, council can, you know, bring that up. We're airing on one of these in-camera closed session items, or administration will point it out and make a point to, through the chair. We're kind of crossing that threshold, would recommend going into closed session if the conversation's going this way, kind of thing like that, just to eliminate risk as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we used to do in the beginning, would be administration would say perhaps we should go in camera for something, but that seemed to be a bit of a rash decision on that particular item, just to run it in camera after we read it into the public record.
So I could answer, like, when someone writes a letter to council, Reeve Council, it has to go to public. Like, there's no option. Staff can't say this should go in camera. If it's addressed to Reeve and Council, it has to be public. So we don't have that option before that comes out. You understand that part? Like, if
Yeah,
the
I get
letter's
that
addressed,
part, but what I
yeah.
don't get is why we had to, once we read it into the public record,
Yeah.
why do we have to go in camera to discuss what happens? Because the outcome of the discussion, which was a resolution, was the part that was probably the most harmful to relations with those particular municipalities. That's what I need to understand.
I do remember when we were going through the GFL, things were discussed in public, but as soon as legal was mentioned, we would go into camera.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, I don't remember exactly what was said about the letter in public, but if legal is mentioned with GFL, I know that we immediately went into, and it was actually suggested from legal that we do that. Certain parts we could talk about, but other things we couldn't.
For me, it's more of it gives you an opportunity to, like, because there could be allegations that you can't really address in an open, because it's somebody's opinion, for one thing. So if it's there's some allegations in there that the rest of council feels are warranted, that's the time to discuss it, and then figure out if you need to get legal, do you not? And then if through that discussion you feel that there was nothing, you can definitely bring it back out of camera and say, okay, and then go have the discussion further. But I mean, it's government relations, I mean, can be looked at many different ways. I think some people may think that in camera is hurting it. Some may look at it as a strategy to try to move forward. It's hard to figure out. It's a great discussion, so.
Yeah, and that's why I need clarification, because I've heard from ratepayers in a lot more than my division that have questioned me as to why are you in camera so often.
For myself, I feel more comfortable when I'm in camera because I can say stuff that might be, if it's just out there recorded, might be taken in the wrong vein and all that kind of stuff. I believe it's, like, because we are recorded, you can cherry pick what you want from these recordings, right?
From media, especially.
And you cannot, by the time you sit down there and say, yeah, but the overall conversation was, well, you've lost that, and people's opinions or feelings get hurt sometimes when you say things that need to be said. It's better that in that situation that it's in camera so that cooler heads can prevail and we can craft a better answer coming out. But yeah, I believe that a lot of times going in camera, especially in intergovernmental stuff, is just wise, just so that because all our stuff is recorded and is out there, right? So I just feel better.
For me, it's important to remember the motion gives direction to staff or to mostly staff to march our orders forward. The discussion is the discussion. And I've seen it over the years, media will pick up on the discussion. The resolution may not have been mentioned in an article. And that in itself causes more damage than what the actual motion forward was. Does that make sense?
And I'm well aware of what the media will do.
Yeah.
So here's what the ratepayers are telling me. We have in our strategic plan, or used to have, trustworthy and transparency as to. I think we've changed the trustworthy to honesty. But they're saying to me, how can you claim to be that when you do so much business in camera that's not transparent and it's not honest? So that's just what I need a way to answer that. And it's very difficult for me when we've discussed and read something in public and then we say we're going to go in camera. Like, there's a lot of things I totally get, like certain ventures that have come our way. Those absolutely need to be in camera, but some of the stuff I'm having trouble explaining.
Go ahead.
As long as council strictly follows FOIP and section 16 to 29, and we're very careful about that, I think we can, and that's why I included this in the agenda, to try to provide an explanation not only to council but also to residents that we do have that ability. I would say there's nothing wrong with council questioning, do we really need to have this in camera, or can we talk about it in public? It's not, there's really only the 3 sections where you must go in camera. The other ones are may. So I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning.
And I have done so.
Yes.
You have to understand, Rick, that we're now going to be spending 6 hours today discussing stuff, and there will be no in-camera stuff. So, like people may, when you look at the amount of open discussion that we have in this council as opposed to the amount that's in camera, it's very insignificant, really. So, people are going to cherry pick and say, oh, that seems like it, but they won't talk about this 6 hours of open discussion that we've had about a wide variety of things. And there's nothing that's gone in camera on it, right? So it's, you sort of, sometimes people's perspectives are, oh, you guys are in camera all the time, but in actuality, if we sit down there and had administration track how much time of the time we spend that is actually in camera, it'd probably be fairly insignificant.
That's actually something I would ask administration to do. Let's track that, because this is the first time in a while that we have not had one. But if that's at least a number we can give, if people say, let's say it's 20% or just, I'm pulling a number out of my head, at least then that's something that, 80% of what we do is in public. That might be helpful.
Yep. That's a great idea.
As long as they realize that there's certain things, we have had some projects that we have to keep confidential. So that's going to be in those numbers too.
You could break it up into between mandatory and discretionary.
Yeah,
Council
actually,
decision
that's a good idea.
would be helpful too.
Yes, we could break it up into each section. Section 16, 32 minutes. Section.
How often would you want to see a report? Administration can craft that.
Yeah.
So just through Deputy Reeve, just a question, would council be open for maybe the last year of breaking that up for the last 12 months, let's just say? And then...
Versus the actual council time?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we could do that, because we note that in our minutes as well. It might just be difficult to parse out, to Councillor Bigger's point, the ones that really needed to, we wouldn't really track that discussion. It would be hard to do that, but we could do first, the past 12 months. So a resolution might be to direct administration to bring back a report highlighting the amount of time in closed session versus out of session for the past 12 months.
That motion?
I have another question on another sort of aspect of FOIP that maybe you can answer. I don't know. So section 17(2), having to do with personal privacy. So disclosure of personal information is not an unreasonable invasion of a third party's personal privacy if the third party has, in the prescribed manner, consented to or requested the disclosure. So does that mean if you went into camera regarding a certain person and then they requested it to be brought out, it could be?
So if there's a third party involved, that's where we have to protect their privacy. However, we can redact information and then we send it to them, they review it, and we say, are you comfortable with the redaction we've done, and we'd like to provide it to the applicant. So they give permission saying, yes, we're good with you sending that information to the applicant. Does that make sense? So that's where the third party does have to give us permission. But we do the redacting.
So I was just thinking about a situation on a board
Okay.
where a board member was discussed in camera. And he would like it brought out. Can he request that?
I'm going to say that is somewhat different because
Is that
I
not
think
a third party in that way? Because he's, I don't know, like
I think about the legal training we received and how that there's certain corporations or societies that have their own acts. So I'm not certain how FOIP falls in with other acts. MGA, I'm fairly comfortable with, but I'm not sure about Societies Act or, yeah. I think we'd have to look into that one.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I have a question. These letters that we received
Yes.
from residents,
Yep.
it's FOIP Section 17.
Yep.
Do you have to go send this back to every single person?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
You
whenever
just
we
automatically take out all the
Yeah,
information.
so whenever we redact anything, it has to say the section. We can't just redact because we think we should.
Yeah.
But what we do is on our website, we have a clause saying
Okay.
anything that you send to council, you should understand becomes public. It will be put in the agenda, it's public. So, because I know we have had people, well, I don't want it to be public, but I want to send it in, and it's like, sorry, it will be public, but we'll redact your email address, your phone number, your, like, anything
That's on
that
the
is
website.
personal. Yeah.
Okay.
Great discussion. I look at section 20 here with law enforcement, and I'm just trying to, I've seen other municipalities say discuss a current case and their opinion of what is happening in law enforcement. And I look at that and think that should be in camera. Like you can affect an ongoing investigation. And I've seen it happen in municipalities. Lots of people's emotions are high and someone will take a stand on something. And I mean, you're not doing any help for the situation at all, other than making yourself feel good or and you can, there's reasons these are here. And yes, there's some gray areas, and yes, definitely discussion of whether or not you personally feel that it should be in camera or not. Myself, I'm always welcome those discussions. It may get defeated and be voted on and move ahead. It may get supported, but I think that's important as part of democracy. And I try to keep as much out in the open as you can myself. Some people may disagree with that statement, but I'm always trying to look at how to move forward from things. So. Any further discussion? You have a motion?
Yep.
Did you actually read it out? Sorry.
I would just move that administration come back with a report of the amount of in-camera sessions in the last 12 months compared to open sessions, and bring it back to council for information. At a future date, yeah.
Okay, so no, okay. Is that clear enough for administration?
Yes, it is, Council.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, I will call the question. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried.
And I'll move that council accept the exception to disclosure in camera, freedom of information and privacy, protection of privacy, FOIP Act presentation as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much for that. It's great discussion. We'll move on to 2.36.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration. On page 125 of your agenda package, you'll note a RFD for a response to a federal letter, which is supplemental to this report, on rural economic development's top 3 issues. Shadow Ministers, Member of Parliament, MP Stubbs, MP Currick, and Gord wrote to us, to I think every rural MD, to respond in an official letter with the top 3 issues affecting rural economic development in each specific municipal jurisdiction. In the report we have here, I had asked, and both the Economic Development Officer and I brainstormed a wide variety of issues that we noted from an economic development perspective that are noteworthy, that Council has highlighted as a priority. Most notably, we did kind of highlight a few that maybe would make the top 3, and you could certainly blend some of these issues in, and I think that that would be wise as well. Obviously, the first priority and kind of complication for rural economic development, specific to Wheatland County, but also not limited to Wheatland County, is the servicing and infrastructure, of course. So number 1 there, you'll note the need for servicing and infrastructure, water and wastewater, and the large costs associated with that to a municipality, obviously is one that Wheatland County has been noted as definitely a difficulty and a complexity. In the spirit of the rural broadband initiative, we did note that rural broadband and connectivity gaps would be another rural economic development complication. But I also think from that perspective, the need for businesses to have that digital presence as a result of rural broadband issues, that might be an implication for that digital presence that's prohibiting businesses for having that presence. Number 2, you'll note attract investment and increase employment and tax revenue. So that could be definitely kind of blended with several others, but we do think that that would be another one that would be a difficulty, especially for Wheatland County, because broadening that tax base as well, Wheatland County certainly has had difficulties, I think, as a result of that infrastructure, maybe sometimes, or that rural broadband. We definitely have a strong road network and the rest. It's a solid kind of proximity to a population base, definitely population bases within the county. But those were some noteworthy ones from our perspective. But of course, it's at Council's discretion. And you'll note the rationale in the letter as to why the shadow ministers were writing. Obviously, they want to get a good sense. They want to get a pulse of what rural issues are, prohibiting some economic development, particularly at Wheatland County. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Discussions, questions?
I appreciate what administration has done here. It's a lot of work, and I don't care which ones. Like, we're talking shadow ministers in a conservative government that is probably 3 or 4 years away from being anything. So this is like, I don't think we should spend a lot of time on here. Pick 3, and whatever 3 you pick, I'll vote for. But this is to make somebody else's work look like they're doing something in Ottawa, which, in my opinion, ain't happening. So, this will probably be done in a Zoom session for the next year. So, it's sort of pointless work. So I appreciate your work you've done. Whatever 3 you guys pick, I'm good on.
Thank you for that. Go ahead.
So I think our biggest right now, and this is for business, employees, all the other things that you're talking about, you need number 5. We need number 5 to do something first. That is going to make everything else irrelevant if it just is if it's the biggest problem, it's going to make everything else irrelevant.
How do you change that? Get through 83,
But it should be listed.
For myself, I look at this and would say number 5 would be the first one, and then 1 and 2 would be down.
That's what I got down to.
The other ones, yeah, I'm with you with the record high fuel prices, and do I think it's going to go down to where it was a year ago? No, but that's my personal opinion. But I know that affects everything. Being that a business owner that deals with this on a daily basis, I see it already happening.
Yep.
I see people not buying as
Affecting my
much
business too.
food at grocery stores, much fuel, and liquor. Liquor sales are way down because of that, right? So that's one of the key ones. So that's just what I see in my 2 cents.
I thought number 1 and 2 were my 2 highest priorities, and then I sort of thought number 4, attracting and retaining skilled labor, but considering this is going to the federal government, I mean, if they're the ones that have kind of created policies to create
Yes.
some of the high fuel prices and some of the negative effects that we're seeing now. So yeah, I would vote for that.
Councilor Larson, any input?
I was going to say 4, 5, and 8, but,
4, 5, and 8.
so it sounds like we have agreement on 5 for sure. Not,
I-
I'm also with Councillor Eckert. The government can't do anything about it, but it is important.
Councilor Kester, do you have some input?
There, yeah, inflation, that's a government thing. They have to deal with that. And inflation's there for various reasons. I think number 8, for me, we don't have anything without broadband. We don't have broadband, we won't need to expand or do anything in the near future. And servicing, number 1, that's a huge cost, but still, we could get along and increase, but we need broadband, I think.
Could we add number 8 in with number 2? It's kind of a part of attracting investment.
I think that would be
Number
good.
2 or number 1, it's part of, it's infrastructure.
Yep. Yep.
And add broadband with infrastructure / broadband.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's be rebels, let's do 4 of them. Let them work it out, then let them throw a wrench in it.
I think from what I've heard here, number 3 is off the table, like succession planning. Yeah. So we can combine 1 and 8.
And 2 and 5.
2 and 5. And then what was another one here? Number 4, skilled labor in a sustainable manner. Did someone bring that one up?
Yeah, I did. But
I hear that lots. Like I deal with lots of businesses, and I hear that just about every day talking to people saying that they have to hire 10 to keep 1.
Yeah.
And that's a huge expense for a business training wise. And I hear that people, well, I heard it the other day, they scheduled interviews for 5 people, 1 showed up. Zero notification. They went through a preliminary interview, but an in-person one, they wouldn't even have the decency to let them know.
Yeah.
I've heard that time and time again, and that's something that I think we should teach in schools to kids about, career and life management. That's something that's very important, is to have some respect for the people that are taking their time out to try to increase your work skill. So I have,
The provincial government's trying to do something about that right now.
well, 1 and 8 together.
Could we add 2 and 4? So
4
just
together?
because in number 2 we talk about good employment opportunities.
Sure.
And then we could say, efforts to attract and retain skilled labor.
Yeah. What do you, staff
that-
amenable to that?
5.
Perfect.
Just 5.
So just for council's information, in order to be more specific, we could have the recommendation on the top 3 issues affecting rural economic development, and then we can list combining, and then we can spell out number 1 and number 8, combining number 2 and number 4, and then number 5 individually, and we'll just spell that out in the resolution.
Sounds good to me.
Good discussion. Anyone want to make the motion?
I'll move that council direct administration to put forward the following 3 top issues to the federal government, that being number 1 combined with number 8, number 2 combined with number 4, and number 5, and draft a response.
Great, thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We will move on to number 7, County Council Strategic Plan.
Good afternoon, Council. Matt from Administration. On page 129 of the agenda package, you'll note the report starts on moving forward 2022 to 2025, County Council's strategic plan. We did discuss this at last week's Committee of the Whole. The information has been gathered from that discussion, incorporated into this updated plan for your review and approval. Of note, after approval of your strategic plan, in which this guides Council's decision-making moving forward for the balance of the term, the departments will start tactical business plans. That's kind of the next step over the course of the summer and into the fall. And those are the smaller tactical plans that kind of are the outfalls of the strategic plan that will guide, that are more meticulous, each department moving forward to achieve the goals of Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's excellent work here. Discussion?
Yeah, I really like the updates that you made. Pictures are awesome. The quotes, I thought they were, yeah, great spots.
I'll move that council approve the county's strategic plan moving forward, 2022 to 2025 as presented.
Thank you for the motion. It's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Again, I like to say it's really good work, even though it's not my wheelhouse. I appreciate the effort. I like what it is. But if there's no further discussion, I will call the question. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. Move on to planning and policies amendments.
Good afternoon, Council. Stefan Kuntz on behalf of Administration. So this item as well was presented last week to Committee of the Whole, so I'll keep this somewhat brief, but give a bit of a refresher here. So the intention of this is to amend the planning policies, particularly Policy 7.3, which deals with wastewater, and 7.17, which deals with water servicing. So this is in situations where subdivision applications are proposing on-site servicing. Oftentimes we require a number of technical studies for this. So private sewage disposal system assessment and a phase 1 groundwater assessment. These determine whether or not the site is suitable and whether or not it'll have impact on the surrounding residents. So the way the policy is currently worded, and I'll turn your attention to pages 145 and 146 of the document. So this is to the wastewater one, essentially replacing the existing Part A of Policy 1, which refers to whether or not there's a dwelling. So right now it's exempted if there's a dwelling on site, but that, however, wouldn't capture the newly created lot. So amending A to reference whether there's a unserviced or undeveloped remainder lot. In that case, it may be required. And then adding Part B, which again exempts the requirement for the technical studies if one or the other parcels is over 30 acres in size and designated Ag General District. This is also reflected in the water servicing policy 7.17. In this case, it's policy 4, and that's on page 150. So that concludes my presentation. Be happy to take any questions should you have any.
Thank you. Any questions? Again, this is a follow-up from Committee of the Whole meeting where we had quite a discussion on it, but definitely good for more discussion if needed. Silence in the room. Councillor Kester, any questions?
No, not right now.
I'll move that council approve the proposed amendments to planning policy 7.3 and 7.17 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion, questions, concerns? If not, I will call the question. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried.
Thank you.
We'll move on to number 9, Township Road 224 Double Seal Coat Project Deferral.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock from Administration. Pardon?
Afternoon.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. Yes. Brad Bowe from Council presenting. So this RFD is in relation to obviously the double seal coat repair of Township 224, which was scheduled in the budget for this season. Since it was put into the budget, we did get the schedule for the Highway 817 and 24 intersection project, which is going to have a significant impact, or would have had significant impact on the 224 seal coat repair project. And so what administration is recommending is that we defer the seal coat repair of 224 until next year. And at the time we'll divert crews to doing other operational work that is needed. So there's a list down at the bottom of the report, so that would include accelerating the schedule of the double seal coat repair on Township Road 262, so it would just be done earlier this year, which was also was scheduled for this year as well. Seal coat repair on Range Road 24A, is a cul-de-sac, and then the spot repair seal coat roads through Cheadle, and then some miscellaneous countywide road hard surface repairs per available time and resources. It's just not very amenable to be doing that work while the Alberta Transportation is doing that highway project, just in terms of the delays and things that would happen. It's just more efficient to delay it until next year. That's my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question. Is any work started on that road?
In regards to the double seal coat repair?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
No, okay.
Other
Want it to
questions?
be in the middle of something? Yeah, no.
I'll move that council approve the deferral of Township 224 double seal coat repair capital project from Highway 24 to Rural Route 260 until 2023.
Motion on the floor. Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. Move on to the addition number 10. It's in your package. There's some information staff have. An RFD for Muirfield RV lot. Welcome. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. As this was a late amendment or a late addition to the package, I'll read through it. It's not very long, so I'll read through it and then we can go through questions. In 2020, the county took ownership of the Muirfield RV storage lot. The previous developer had been using the site as a recreation vehicle storage business that was being operated on their behalf by a resident of Muirfield. Upon transition, the county operated the site in the exact same way, paying a nominal annual fee to the Muirfield resident to continue operating on the county's behalf. While a thorough investigation has not yet been completed by administration, it is thought that the county continuing to operate this property as an RV rental site may expose the county to unnecessary legal and financial risks. And it is a service that is not typical for the county to provide. It is in part for these reasons that the county has explored potential alternate uses for this site, summarized below. Waste transfer site. Through council resolution, administration proceeded to have a public hearing to potentially utilize it as a waste transfer site. Considerable feedback was received from area residents that expressed significant concerns. That initiative was defeated. Number 2, a leased property, HOA-operated RV rental site. Subsequent to surveying the potential use of this property as a waste transfer site, administration explored a potential lease agreement with the Muirfield Homeowners Association. Through resolution of council, the intention was that the lease agreement was to be like other existing agreements the county has in place for other sites being utilized for storage facilities. After review and negotiations with the HOA made the decision to not lease the site. Current actions and initiatives. Administration has reviewed the area and determined that there are several privately owned storage lot businesses located along Highway 1 in near proximity to the subject county property located in Muirfield. In consideration of the anticipated potential legal and financial liabilities associated with the county continuing to operate the existing RV rental site, administration, working with the resident operator, has notified the 15 renters that the county would no longer be operating the storage facility as of September 30th, 2022. All agreements with the current renters now expire on September 30th, 2022. Administration plans to review potential alternate options for the future use of the site and will be bringing a recommendation to council to be actioned after the rental closing date of September 30th, 2022. If council wishes to operate the facility as a storage rental facility beyond September 30th, 2022, administration recommends that council provide direction that administration further investigate the infrastructure, operational, and contractual agreements, for example, security measures, operational staff requirements, insurance requirements, rental rates, advisable to be in place in order to mitigate potential legal and financial risks when owning and operating a storage facility. That is the information for the package. There are 2 resolutions that have been added at the top for council's consideration.
Thank you very much. Any questions, discussion before I start?
Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing this forward. I didn't have notice that this was happening, so I had a few emails from residents about it being shut down, which is why I asked for it to be brought forward. I do understand and appreciate. We've tried to look at other things in the site, and I have talked to the HOA, and they have mostly their biggest concern was getting insurance for the site. Through their current insurance provider, they cannot meet the needs of the insurance requirements, which is why they declined it. And they want to make sure that that's what the residents want to do. Now, I kind of go back to what was the original intention of that piece of property there, because I know it was a vacant land, and I don't know if anybody here can answer that. And then the developers chose to turn it into an RV site, and it was approved by council. So myself, I've said to public, I don't think the county should be running it. It's not really something that's a venture for us. And yes, I agree with you as staff that we need to look at the risk associated with that and see if we have the right coverage, because we've had another site within the county that had an RV break-in not that long ago. This wasn't a county-run one, but there is definitely some insurance risks as well. So let's kick off the discussion. Welcome to hearing it from my colleagues.
So Muirfield doesn't have an association, like a community, they're not a community association?
Muirfield has an HOA, Homeowners Association.
Home.
Yeah.
Owners Association.
Yeah. And with that, they have
But not a
property group that they have to hire to do it, and that property, the terminology eludes me right at the moment, but they only have a certain group of insurance companies that they can utilize, and nobody has access to provide the coverage that they want. And they want to make sure it's cost effective for them as well. So, there is people that are using it. There was some things back and forth. The restrictions being that it can only be for residents of Muirfield, the taxes that they'd have to pay, things like that we never had brought forward to council. So staff have been working on it, and I don't fault them at all for that. So it's cost. So.
To me, I think, we shouldn't really be running an RV storage site. I think if the HOA, I understand the reasons for them not wanting to take it on, not being able to get insurance. But I don't know if there are storage facilities available to them nearby. I don't know. I think we should follow administration's recommendation.
As we are the developer in the area too, we just sold a bunch of lots with people that expected, well, there was an RV site there. So I'd hate to lose it for the, as the area. I wouldn't mind, I don't mind the recommendation from administration, but I would like to put it to 2023, give them a year, and then it's serious.
You have to run it for a year.
I think we'd have to look at our risk then and figure
Unless
out.
the risk is too great.
Exactly. I don't know.
We could,
I would sure encourage them to talk to Speargrass Community Association.
I have done that as well, yeah.
Yeah, and see how they run it and how it's laid out there.
My hope it would have been that it would definitely be community run and that they would be able to use the revenue to offset some of their costs of operating and maybe create some revenue for the community as well for some of the projects. That has not played out as of yet. Mostly from what I heard, and I think Matt has been in the meetings as well, is the insurance is the biggest one. And we cannot help them through our insurance because of their for-profit, correct?
That would make sense.
Okay, yeah, I was just confirming with the GM of Corporate and Finance. Tracy also works with insurers, our insurers, very closely, and she did ask a couple of times, and they won't go there. I mean, if you want to provide some additional details, please feel free. But ultimately, the question has been asked, I think, 2 or 3 times.
Can I ask the staff, how long would it take to get a risk assessment done on here? To make sure, like, if there was a loss with the current, what are we, because I don't really know, how bad is it? Before we make a decision, I'd like to know, because that would definitely affect my decision.
Yes, through the chair, I would suggest, or to the chair, I would suggest 3 to 4 weeks for us to go through it. We wouldn't be looking at, and the risk that we're associating with this, of course, is not the risks of earnings, or profit. It would be the risk of operating the site, insurance costs, having staff look after the site, invoicing, redoing or updating the agreements that are required for rental agreements that are required. So those are the kind of things that we would be looking into. So I would suggest a couple of weeks minimum.
So the current operator sounds like doesn't want to go past.
No, I don't think that is a concern. It's more of a concern that that operator is working for us without any form of agreement.
Gotcha.
It is just ongoing from the arrangement that was made with the previous developer, and I don't believe there was anything in writing with them as well.
Okay.
Would it be helpful to add a couple months to this? I would hate to go for a whole year while they investigate. Could they investigate and get back to us, and then we could make a decision that September or
Sure. I mean, 6 months would be good as well. Just to try to give it one last, try to get it to help them take it over. And then we have to look at
the risk then, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that,
well, if we have, it sounds like the existing operator will be willing to do it for that amount of time. And I know there has been through the HO, I've heard that there's been gate repairs and things like that they have somebody that they can utilize that. Ideally, it would be our guys looking after it, but if we start looking after it, I know it's a loss. Guaranteed.
If I may, for clarification, we do take care of all the maintenance requirements of that site. The resident operator takes care of all the agreements and phone calls and dealings with the renters, just for clarification.
And do you think the resident operator would be willing to go an extra 6 months?
I believe so. I don't. This initiative wasn't brought down from the operator. It was brought up, and we worked with the operator on determining what date might work. So that date was recommended based on allowing renters to find another location or suitable location and get them through the summer. But an extension, I don't think would be. I don't think the operator would be against an extension.
I see no reason to go 6 months, 2 at the most, because camping season will be over. So anybody that's using using that lot for storage for camping, well, they're going to have to find another place. It's probably just as easy to find it beforehand. People heading down to the States will probably have left before the middle of November. So I think if we extend it, I'd be more comfortable with 2 months, and then we can just, I just can't see how this is going to I am definitely against the county running this. This is something that needs to be worked out. So if there's a demand for it, the HOA will have to figure out a way to do it. But I think if we give it, I'm good with 2 months, and that's not figured out by the end of November, then we got all spring, we got all winter to figure out what we're going to do with that piece of property come spring.
Okay. So then the first motion we could add to September, October, November 30th, 2022, and the second motion I would have the same date. If they don't come up with something by then, go ahead.
So just a question before we change the date. So all of the renters have been notified that this is going to happen? And if the answer to that question is yes, has anyone objected saying I can't be done by September 30th? Because otherwise there's really no need to extend it.
Yes, through the chair, all the renters were notified of this. The resident operator discussed all of it with them, and then also has made all the agreements that are in place conclude on September 30th, 2022. To my knowledge, there was no feedback given to me from the operator suggesting that there were any complaints or concerns.
Given that information, I would suggest we stick with this date, because I really think the sooner we get out of this business, the better. Because even if you do a risk assessment, you're going to have to look at environmental risk as well, because the trailers could drop stuff on the ground, and guess who'll be responsible for that?
Propane tanks.
That too, yeah. I didn't want to get into the specifics.
Yeah, hearing the discussion, I won't be the one making the motion, but
I'll make the motion. We'll do them one at a time, right?
yeah, sure.
I'll move the council direct administration to cease operating the county-owned property of roll number 9455014, located within the half section of W82526 west of the 4th Meridian, as a rental storage facility as of September 30th, 2022. Then we'll vote on that and go on further.
Yep. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll just state that I really hope that we wouldn't have to come to this conclusion. So if by some miracle the HOA comes up with a plan within that time, we can bring that forward.
Of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
Through the chair, yes, we could. Of course.
Okay, fair enough. All right, any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. Go ahead.
I'll move, and further, that council direct administration to bring a recommendation to council for alternate usage of the county-owned property of roll number 9455014, located within the half section of, that west half section of 82526 west of the 4th Meridian, to be actioned after September 30th, 2022.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Any opposition? Seeing none, hearing none, that is carried. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
11, which is... What was 11?
The housing letter.
Oh, the housing letter. Sorry, yes. Get a little fuzzy in the afternoon. It's in our emails.
Yes.
A letter sent by staff, if everybody has a chance to review it, or did you want to read it out?
I could certainly read it out, but it was circulated, of course. Shanna, executive assistant, circulated it to council maybe an hour or so ago. It's in your inboxes. I'll read it out just for the record.
Does everybody want to read it? Or we can just read it, and if we have to make changes to it?
I guess, yeah, we can read it first.
Okay. So it's in draft format, dated today. It's undersigned by the Deputy Reeve. If we are approving it today, it certainly can be distributed later this afternoon. Attention, Denise Peterson, Chairperson. Dear Ms. Peterson, regarding Wheatland Housing Management Body Board governance, Wheatland County Council wishes to thank you and the board for all of the work it does on behalf of seniors in the Wheatland region in providing quality and affordable housing and ensuring seniors have the resources and care they need. Wheatland County Council wishes to gain some clarity from you with respect to housing board governance. Council is hoping that you can clarify the following questions, and there's 3. 1, councils appoint members to serve on the housing board. What can a councillor report back to on his or her? What can a councillor report back on to his or her council? Do they have the authority as a member of council and a representative on a housing board to report back to the respective council on highlights, ongoing matters, excluding in-camera discussions? Number 2, what are the roles and responsibilities of the spokesperson? And number 3, can you provide a copy of the terms of reference for the building committee? Wheatland County Council thanks you for your attention to some of our inquiries. Any information you can provide to us will be beneficial for Council's knowledge and information in order to further our collaboration with the Wheatland Housing Management Body. Sincerely, Scott Klassen, Deputy Reeve, Wheatland County.
Thank you. Any discussion on the letter? Go ahead.
So just regarding point number 1, would it be sufficient just to get the minutes of the meeting? Because that's, as far as I know, a matter of public record. And then whatever councillors on there can speak to what the minutes are. I just kind of struggle with question number 1. If you can have the minutes, would that not be good enough? Just a point for discussion.
Minutes are public record. Don't these usually take a little while for them to get approved?
Takes a month.
Okay.
Same as ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would we, because I had requested or asked whether they could be public. Because there's so many questions going around, when is it coming up, that they could be public, so it would be a way for them to be public if they're on our reports, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% familiar. They're governed under the Societies Act as well, I believe, the same as the Drumheller District Solid Waste Management, and our minutes are public.
Not societies, they're the housing.
No, they're under the Housing Act, that's right too, yeah. So I don't know 100%, but most organizations have to make their minutes public. Anyway, it was just a thought.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be the answer we get back. I imagine our members will be at the board when this is discussed, so that could be part of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a technical. So in point number 1, councils should not have an apostrophe, I think. I think we're talking about.
I was going to point that out.
Plural, not possessive.
It's bugging you too.
Thanks, Tom. I'm glad you were on top of that one.
That's why we review these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when you read it out loud that you go,
Yeah.
oh, hold on. That's all I had.
Any further discussion? There was a motion already to produce this letter. This is the letter. We don't have to make a motion. It's just discussion whether or not there's any fine details we want to change. Okay. So take the apostrophe out. Done. And circulate it. And did
Anything
you want me to
else, Tom?
sign that today? Okay. Okay.
If we can get your signature today, I'm not sure if we have it digital, but we can get you to sign it.
Okay. Fair enough. Any further discussion? Thank you for that. And we are on 2012.
No, we haven't.
Ratification, Shannon's ratification.
Ratification for the event today.
So I would just move that Shannon Laprise be allowed to submit a mileage claim for transport of councillors from Wheatland Council Chambers to the Hussar Seed Cleaning Co-op and back for the wonderful lunch that we had today. And while I have the microphone, I want to publicly thank the Hussar Seed Cleaning Plant for having us there.
Us too.
Yes, I agree. It was a great event to go to, and we were cost efficient. We could have jumped in all our own vehicles, but we chose to go in one, and we went there. So I have no problem supporting that. You want to make a motion? You made the motion.
Didn't I?
You did make the motion?
That's what I did.
That's sorry. The motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I will ask, is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried.
Thank you very much.
I do believe that is a continuation of our business for today.
Correspondence?
Oh, we have correspondence. My apologies. Correspondence. I was looking at the end.
I don't see where this is in correspondence. I don't see where this is on the agenda.
So, okay, we have some correspondence listed here, and we have some stuff that's been brought as a late addition that wasn't added. So how do we deal with
Yeah,
that?
like, this wasn't added, right? There's no reference anywhere to the.
It's in our
Legion.
county package, I believe. It's
Yeah.
on our, if you look at there,
Just-
Sorry?
it's on our county package.
So through correspondence, we have 2 for information.
Or
You skip over top.
I thought it was.
So we have 2 that are listed in the council package, Samuel Cutler correspondence, Town of High River correspondence.
Just to council, so the additional has been emailed, and there is copies on your,
Does that suffice as acceptable for a public meeting?
yeah,
You know what? Oops. We didn't amend the agenda properly because I'm just looking at Shanna's email from Monday, and it said additions to the agenda. 2.2.1 Wheatland Housing, which we did, but then Strathmore Legion correspondence, Municipal Affairs correspondence, and Ozark Rural Fire Association correspondence 3.1.
So I will ask of council.
just through the chair, we did that. It was amended, so I did note the additions to the agenda, the correspondence information items. So they were printed and circulated to council. Typically is what we do with the added supplemental documents about 24 hours prior to council starting. So we did note the correspondence information items, the additions. We have done this in the past. And then afterwards, we put them up in the minutes. So you'll note.
Okay,
it's,
thank you.
it's all
I just
there.
didn't see it.
We
I
captured everything.
apologize.
Not a problem.
0.31.
My apologies for that. I should have caught that, but if council's acceptable in that, we'll deal with the stuff that's in the package right at the moment. So we have Samuel Crowther correspondence in Town of High River that are here. What actions?
And you got this, so these are all, that covers everything. Yeah.
So an action out of there would be, it's like the same one, high school correspondence and the Legion correspondence, is that the same one? No.
Oh,
No. Okay.
We need to provide a letter of greeting with the reunion group.
Oh, today marks 50th anniversary, 44 classes. Provide a letter of greetings and congratulations on behalf of Wheatland County Council. We just need a letter, we don't need in person. Okay?
So I'll move that we provide a letter of greeting and congratulations to our reunion group on behalf of our Reeve and the Wheatland County Council.
Sounds good. Any discussion with staff draft that letter, or would we leave it up to the Reeve to do it? Please don't leave it up to me to draft a letter.
We will draft
Thank
the
you.
letter.
And it's on or before July 6th, so we can get, do we need that to come back to council, or are we okay if staff drafts it and sends it via email so we can quickly review it? There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, to amend my motion to be on or before July 6th.
To be on or before July 6th. Okay, there's an amended motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Now I'll call the question. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We have co-policy for Alberta 2022 and beyond. You wish to sign and support this policy?
I'll move that we accept it as information.
Motion to accept it as information. Any further discussion? Now I'll call the question. Any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. We'll move on to Legion correspondence, Great Wall Memorial Centennial Celebrations. And I believe this was handed to us July 8th through July 11th. They have a dinner, they have a barbecue, dart shoot, live entertainment, pancake breakfast, golf tournament, and rededication ceremony. I do believe some of our members of council are Legion members. in the past. I know I was in the past, and this year. But, and there was some sponsorship as well with this, correct?
On the email, there was some
Yeah,
sponsorship.
they're on the email.
What would council like to do? We could donate out of your own pocket, or we could, don't really. I think it's important that some of us attend this. We can.
I'm for actually having our name to sponsor. But
What about in the golf tournament or something? Some people like to golf.
yeah, can't find the email.
Can you find the email with that first and send it to us?
Oh, it's on here somewhere.
I'm just trying to find the information as well, so I'll make sure we're making the decision.
It's from Monday at 3:07. It was sent.
We're going to recirculate the
Oh,
application.
supplemental
to-
documents. Municipal Fair.
Yeah, it's in the Centennial, I think it's,
Centennial Park? Okay.
I think so. Right? Yes, it tells us what, yeah. Page 6 on the Centennial part tells us what's there.
Everybody found that? 5, 6. So they have sponsorship opportunities from $2,500 down to $300 to as a whole sponsor. Hole in one is $400, longest drive $800, closest to the pin. So it all has to do with the golf tournament.
Then on the last page, there's a wish list of
Okay.
event sponsor opportunities. But I don't see any dollar amounts.
Is there a policy on this that we have to follow?
So council has and I can't quote the name, but that you guys have a donations GL where you have a set amount that you can provide donations to organizations that request.
And the Reeve would have their own donation thing as well, I believe, expenses. I know I don't, but I think the Reeve has some funds available too for things.
Yeah, what I can comment on is that council does have a donations line item that is approved at every budget for requests such as these.
Do we have any idea where the budget is at right at the moment? Any information? Sorry, do we have any idea where the budget is at right at the moment? So for information?
I can look at the actual budget to actuals as of the previous month that was sent out, so just stand by.
Just so
on
we can
that.
see where we're at in the budget, I think would be
Yeah.
definitely helpful.
Yeah.
Council's wishes. Or do you want to wait for budget amounts?
What if we just, well, I don't know.
My personal, if I'd like to donate, if we can donate and spot donate, the community pancake breakfast thing, I think it'd probably the thing that would probably check off the most squares for me, in the fact that it's a family event. There'll be people from the county there and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if we can pay some money to get some signage up for the community pancake breakfast, but that would be my preference. I don't know how that works. I haven't been able to find anything.
Would bringing this back to the next meeting be too short of a, maybe we can get some from the Legion here to, because we can't answer that question right now. The sponsorship that I see is just for the golf tournament.
I mean, it's July 8th. I don't think we can push this back. I think we have to make a decision today.
Yeah. But from what I see are just these opportunities here, or having somebody go to the breakfast.
I will probably show up there anyhow, just
Registration form representative, would you like to? It doesn't say how much the foursome would be to play, does it?
and $95 a player. I read that somewhere.
That would include dinner? Sorry, if anybody jump in, please, because I'm trying to make sense of this. So we could have a company name representative phone and have a group golfing. And then it looks as if you want to donate for a foursome. So, company display, no.
Click on one of the things that goes to,
I don't want to take too much time on this, but I definitely want to
Just
try to figure out what the best thing to
Just
do.
make a $500 donation to whatever they,
Yeah.
You will have
Let them
sufficient-
decide how, if we can, I agree with Tom with the breakfast thing, if that's an option.
We would
But all
prefer-
I'm seeing as I go through this is you can sponsor something for the golf tournament.
That's what I'm seeing as myself. So can we,
If I would say if we just give them a set amount and then say, okay, if you can't put it to the pancake thing, then sponsor something on the golf course.
You can move a resolution to that, a motion rather to that effect of council donate
With a
X
preference
dollar
to-
amount to the X, and we will
Yeah.
execute that accordingly.
500. Yeah, 500's not too bad, 600 maybe. Or you could
Just
pretty
wait.
much do the whole breakfast. Well, I guess I don't really know the amounts.
everyone wants to
Would
make
be
a
a pretty
motion?
good 600, yeah.
I'll move that council take from funds and donate.
I found it, sponsorship opportunities.
all for golf.
Oh,
and
is that still for golf?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'll move the council take from funds $600 and give the Legion branch number 10, preferably the money going to the
Sponsoring the breakfast.
sponsoring the breakfast on Sunday morning.
And it's signage, if we can
Yeah.
provide some signage as well.
Yeah, we must have, we must have a sign we can get to there. Is there like?
I do believe we have some banners or some signage of sorts, so we would just have to logistically arrange that operationally, and we'll see where we can go with that, but we will do our best to get something there. But nonetheless, if council, so I think it would read that council donate $600 to the Legion number 10's breakfast opportunity or something like this. That works for you?
Yes, that's
Okay.
perfect.
And out of the donations funds.
Out of the council,
Donation.
donation
Yep.
GL code.
Is that clear for everyone?
For the 100th anniversary celebration. I
For the
guess.
100. So any further discussion? Okay, motion on the floor. I will, any discussion on the motion? If not, I will look for any opposition. Seeing none, hearing none, that's carried. In our package, we have a letter from Municipal Affairs showing us that we got our extension, correct? 2-year extension, I believe, for our IDP with Town of Strathmore to His Worship Patrick Fuel and Revamber Link. So that should give us plenty of time to work forward that. We'll set up that, I imagine there'll be a round of meetings and discussion on that and some wrestling.
So yes, just as well to supplement those comments. So the extension of 2 years for the intermunicipal development plan and the intermunicipal collaboration framework, the ICF. So both of those, an extension until I think 2024. It says so. Yeah, that's sufficient time.
I think it's really important with these to get recognition for the infrastructures that we provide that helps the Town of Strathmore residents get to and from work. There's a lot of roads that we pave that we wouldn't normally pave and their residents use. And I want to make sure we get credit for that because that's huge dollars. And then just look at the diversity of our county from one side to the other. If you don't have that big population base, we wouldn't have the roads that we have. It's definitely not our people. No. So I think that's important, and that's something that probably be sitting on there, I will strive to push as hard as I can. Okay, and that one, do we need a motion we can accept all the rest for information after. So we have a letter from Hazard Rural Fire.
I think we should move this one for information, and then this one has potential action.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I move this letter from Municipal Affairs as information.
okay. We can just add a bunch of them, so we have 2 from, oh no, we can do one at a time. Okay, that's fine. Motion on the floor, any further discussion? If If not, I will look for opposition. Those opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. Oh, now we're on to Hazard Row Fire, correct? So looking for this, we were just out there today, and I know Councillor Eichert and myself were looking at the building to see what, you could, by seeing this best thing to look at it, and it looks like the size of our size compared to what the fire department utilizes. I think the fire department has more square footage than us, just for
So,
information.
do we, question to administration, the Greater Shack must, is there a separation on who pays the utilities there now, or is it all on the fire hall?
Through the chair, I actually don't know the answer to that, but we can find out and bring that back.
I'm just trying to figure out what this is, like if it's, like in a real world, like in a fair world, that we already should be paying for the grader operator. And that side should be done, and then we have to decide whether or not we want to kick in the other side. But if they're paying for all the utilities, then yeah, that has to be corrected. So, yes, Matt. Oh, sorry.
No problem. So with this one, and it is, of course, has been circulated and then printed after the fact as well. I'm looking at it again, and I think that there's a little bit of, Brad's point that we need to look at with respect to understanding that. It is, in fact, true, of course, that we do own the 4 fire halls, but I think it does require some additional digging with respect to the utilities, paying all utilities except for Hazard. So we just need to do a little bit of digging there and perhaps bring back some information to council with this as an attachment, of course, too.
Hazard is its own standalone fire department, correct? By
Correct.
volunteers, so they're not.
It's a
So there is some little bit of differences
Yeah.
there between. I think we need some further information to make a decision on this one to see what is it 1 meter? Is there any cost sharing now? That kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this one is somewhat unique, and in talking to Ben, apparently this was supposed to be the model for all the other fire halls, but Rosebud, Dallam, and Standard all decided to do a different thing. But the county owns the building, and the graders are in and out of there every day, opening the big doors. The fire hall typically is closed unless there's a fire. But my understanding, and I can confirm this with the Fire Association, but my understanding is the association does pay the utilities, and it was part of some kind of an agreement back in the day, which would have been when Ben was around. So, but that's kind of my understanding, even though the county owns the building. I think that the Fire Association is paying all the utilities, because I believe there's only 1 meter for power and gas there. So, but I will find that out from the Fire Association, and then Matt can do some digging, and I think maybe let's table this one to the next meeting.
My suggestion to you, Councillor Larson, let staff do the research on that one, because there might be some building designs and stuff too. If there's a wall that's
there is a
separated,
wall,
yeah, and maybe a little bit of history, and then with yourself as well. Let them do the most of the work. I think we need some more information on this one. I'm not opposed to being that looking at the current building, if they're paying the full share, I don't think that's exactly appropriate. But there will be a percentage that I'm sure staff can figure out is appropriate for that.
Yeah,
Because-
because I would like some information on what with the other associations, like with Standard, with Rocky Ford, and with Rosebud is ours, or is it Rosebud an association?
Rosebud and Dallam as well are independent associations.
Okay, and so there must be we must have some sort of an agreement with utilities on that part, like some of the money we must be given must be, so just have to figure out, make this the whole thing.
The difference between those, Tom, is the Fire Association owns the buildings in Rockyford, Standard, Rosebud, and Dallam, whereas the one in Hazard is county-owned.
Well, I would like to see, as well as the maintenance of that building is are we looking after the doors for their side and all the maintenance of the building? That stuff I think is important information for us to know, because that's cost of operating as well. So anything that goes with the building, I think that's what I'd like to see. I don't know anybody else.
Yeah, because I in a perfect world, we should be, if it's our bill, like there should be some sort of an operating funding agreement with it will have to be adjusted because we own the building, but well, yeah.
For sure. I know myself, I'm not opposed to doing something, I just need some more information. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm confident the information that council is asking for is readily available. I just don't have it in hand here, but we can find that out and bring a report back to council in terms of the shared costs of the facilities and some recommendations surrounding this conversation, certainly.
Perfect. Any further discussions? We don't need a motion on that, just basically direction.
We've got the direction, so we're fine.
Okay. Is there anything that I missed here as far as accepting for, should we accept this letter for information? Motion to?
That's correct. I would. Any letters that haven't been received for information, including, I think we did the municipal affairs, but those should be received for information.
With this is our one, just so if someone's looking at the meeting, should we have a different motion saying that a report will come back to have staff review and report back?
Absolutely, yeah. I
So
think
it
that's
gives
a good idea. Yep.
some further clarity with something
Yep.
like that.
I'll move that we accept the Hazard letter as information and direct administration to look into the funding of the operating costs of that building. That work?
Yes, that works.
Perfect. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay. If not, I will look for opposition. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, seeing none, that's carried. Am I missing anything? We are completed through the agenda.
We have completed the agenda.
This meeting is terminated.
Perfect.
I've been waiting to say that forever.
You have been muted. To unmute
we'll see
yourself,
everybody.
press the star key twice.
Thank you, Glenn. Have a good day.
Mute off.